start with this. The Big 12 has released the schedule of guests. Those are the teams on the first day, which is Wednesday, July the 12th. There you see it with Baylor, Brigham Young, Houston, also TCU, Oklahoma State, Kansas, and UT. It is split over the 2 days like it always is. So that's day one. And then you move into day two with Cincinnati, UCF. Obviously, there's Iowa State, there's Texas Tech, Oklahoma, Kansas State, the defending champions, and then West Virginia. So the media days, not just the coaches, that's obvious, but the players are also now known. That will be July 12th and 13th.
I'm surprised at the sheer number that some people are bringing to media days. Now, I guess if you're UCF, you want to roll out as many people as you can. A couple years, you've had like 2 players from certain universities. But, yeah, this is interesting. I mean, it's a new day for the Big 12. And, they're teams are showing up big for that first time out there. Curious to hear from the 2 departing schools one last time, and as much as we can from the new guys.
Yeah, I mean, I'm interested to know what the media day plans are after this year. Post Texas and Oklahoma, are they still renting out AT&T Stadium? Do they decide to go to somewhere that's a little bit more cozy? Just because that's going to be like 50 media members that are suddenly not appearing every year between those 2 schools. Mm-hmm. I mean, give or take. I mean, they bring pretty large groups of guys and gals to their media day contingent. So, that's going to be fun to see and check out what everybody has to say and what all the storylines are and all of that one final time from their perspective, and one final time with the rest of the teams that are going to be around them this last go round, and then also the new 4. So there's just a wide mix of teams and where they are and what's going on and what to expect. But for Baylor, it's an interesting group in particular. I mean, bringing Blake Shapen, they wouldn't always typically do that, but I kind of think at this point is like, stop protecting him. Throw him out there and let him sink or swim. It's time. He's got to be able to handle what all starting quarterbacks have to handle. That includes media. I think he did a better job with it last year, but I like the idea that they're not going to, let's avoid him having to talk about, struggles, or avoid him having to not answer. Like, no, throw him out there and let him, flail or fly. And so good to see him on there. I think if you've got a quarterback, you're probably bringing him. Now, although, TCU's not bringing Chandler Morris, Oak State's not bringing Alan Bowman, so that's kind of interesting. But you're going to see, Keaton Slovis there, Quinn Ewers there, obviously Jalen Daniels. So there's going to be some big-name guys. But, Dabney makes a lot of sense as one of their potential weapons this year. Josh Cameron, I kind of thought that was interesting, just because he hasn't necessarily, separated himself to the point you're like, oh, yeah, that'd be a media rep guy, but – good talker,
great talker,
impactful, on the roster a bit last year. And,
walk on.
Yeah, walk on. He's got a story, so that's great. Josh Cameron was a nice surprise. TJ Franklin, that's probably the biggest no-brainer on this list, how long he's been around at this point. And then Mike Smith Jr., their new linebacker from Liberty, I thought was interesting to note as well.
Does that say something, you think? Or just the fact
I don't know.
I
think maybe haven't heard enough from him. Maybe he's a good talker. Maybe he's one of their leaders on defense. We don't really know that because we haven't been around him much, but now we will get that opportunity. And I'm sure there's, some versions of Mike Smith or Josh Cameron for these other teams that, we're just not as hyper aware of. But, it's an interesting group, interesting mix of guys, and looking forward to seeing what they have to say.
I'm very curious for Keaton Slovis. This is a guy who's been a couple places now, and just want to hear, what that story's like. We can, from the outside, roll your eyes that here's a guy who's transferred twice or say what you will about him, but I do want to hear what it's like from someone who has lived what he's lived in this new era of college sports and trying to find a place that truly fits him and what his perspective on it is.
Yeah, and day 2, by the way, the quarterbacks involved Emory Jones at Cincinnati, the transfer from Florida.
Same with
Plumlee,
him.
Yeah,
same with him.
Plumlee with UCF, who we know is a phenomenal athlete. Will Howard, who really became a big-time story last year in the Big 12 when he took over for Martinez. And then Dylan Gabriel, who was there last year. Tyler Shuck, who really had a fantastic finish for Texas Tech. And West Virginia, there's two offensive linemen, a defensive lineman, linebacker, and defensive back. But those are just some of the names we've thrown up the graphic. It's under at Big 12 Conference, by the way, if you want to.